Hola mi amigos! Being a motorcycle rider coach for some time, you develop an eye for details of people's riding. And sometimes, when you see a rider on the street, you just can't tell that he's beginner. It's practically written all over him. And today, I want to show you 7 mistakes which are signs of new, unexperienced rider. Of course, there are much more than 7 mistakes which beginner riders tend to make. But these 7 are just perfecto. I'll also show you the way to correct these mistakes, in case you need it. You know, you may need it for a friend, not for yourself. So without further ado, let's start. First mistake today is awkward mount or dismount. Sometimes you can spot an unexperienced rider just from looking at him mounting and dismounting his bike. If you see him struggle like this, he most certainly just has too little experience on the bike and he hasn't figured it out yet. Usually this problem goes away by itself, but if you have a tall bike or if you ride with a top case, you can have this awkward dismount forever. But don't worry, I have a pretty good tip for you. If you have a trouble mounting on the bike the regular way, because it's tall or whatever, you can mount not from the ground as usual, but from the foot peg, like this. As you can see, this way you can have plenty of clearance for your leg, even on a tall bike, even with the top case. Furthermore, you can mount and dismount your bike this way from the right side too. Sometimes it can be more convenient, for example, if it's rainy day and rubber on your foot pegs becomes slick. Left foot peg is tilted a bit downwards, so it can be slippery when wet. Right foot peg is facing a bit upwards, so your foot will slip towards the bike, which is actually not a problem. When mounting the bike from a foot peg, especially from the right side, make sure you keep your body above the bike, like this. Not to the side, or this will happen. Your bike will tip over. Turn the handlebars away from you, apply the front brake, put your foot on the foot peg and move your body close to the bike, above it. And now, just swing the leg over the bike. Once you get used to it, it'll be a piece of cake. I think we all can agree that this looks way better than this. Second mistake will be putting landing gear down. If you see a rider doing this coming to a stoplight or the same thing taking off, you can tell that this guy has absolute zero trust in his riding abilities. People even ride like this in turns and intersections. Footwear companies must love these guys. The thing is, as soon as your bike starts moving, it stabilizes itself. You don't need to actively do anything to keep it upright. Just relax and let the bike ride. And certainly don't stick out your feet, they won't do any good in this situation. Once you are moving, you are moving. Put your feet on the foot pegs and don't worry, you'll be fine. Dangling feet are simply an invitation to hurt them. Just don't do it, it's unnecessary, it's dangerous and it looks pretty silly. If you want to feel more comfortable at slower speeds, just spend half an hour on parking lot doing some of our slow speed exercises. You'll never put your landing gear down ever again on moving bike. Here is a slow race exercise, for example. As you can see, if you know how to operate your throttle, clutch and rear brake, you don't really need to put your feet down when going pretty slow. There is just no need for that. The next mistake I like to call the bicycle rider, because it looks like a person rides a bicycle, not a motorcycle. What's wrong here? The arms are wrong. If you see a rider sitting on a bike like this, with his arms absolutely straight, like he rides a bicycle, this guy is most certainly taught himself to ride and have never went through any type of actual training. But why these bicycle straight arms are bad? For several reasons. First, if you ride like this, you significantly reduce the ability of the front wheel to make self-steering. And if your front wheel is not steering itself, your bike becomes much less stable. Just as an example, look at this. As you can see, I cranked up the idle speed here and I don't need any steering at all. Bike is perfectly stable by itself. By putting unnecessary weight on your handlebars, you really make your bike handle much worse. Second thing, with straight arms like this, you can't turn the handlebars effectively. You kind of push them from above this way. It's just not as effective and convenient as pushing the handlebars this way. And third, when you are putting your weight on the handlebars like you do on a bicycle, you will much more likely have numb hands from vibration and constant tension. So, make sure your arms are bent and loose, and make sure you are not putting any weight on them. You can sit closer to the tank if you want. And look how easy I can turn the handlebars now. This will greatly help in any situation when you need extra maneuverability from your bike. This I see all the time. When a rider puts his feet on the foot pegs like this, he most certainly just hasn't leaned his bike enough yet. When you start really leaning your bike, you'll quickly notice, then you start to grind your boots against the pavement. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, you can catch something like a curb with your toe. It'll be quite an ouch, even if you're in good motorcycle boots. Next mistake, which you can often see with the new riders, is total fear of front brake. Again, it happens mostly with self-taught riders who dropped their bike a couple of times because they grabbed a handful of front brake. Now they are afraid to even touch the front brake and use only the rear. Problem is that under braking, the weight of your bike goes to the front wheel. So, by using your rear brake only, you end up with maybe 30% of stopping power at best. Emergency braking from rear brake fanboys usually look like this. This is no bueno at all. What I believe any rider should do is to practice really efficient, aggressive braking from time to time. During such a braking, you apply the front brake in a smooth and progressive way. By the way, I made a pretty detailed video about braking not so long ago, so if you missed it, check it out. I'll leave the link below in the description. Another way you can spot a beginner rider on the road is this. Notice how he rides right in the middle of the lane behind the vehicle. Riding like this is bad for two reasons. First, because you are going right behind the vehicle dead center in your lane, you can't see what's going on down the road. And if suddenly this vehicle stops braking, you probably won't be able to swerve it from any side. Second thing is that the car in front can go over a pothole or some rubbish on the road, and it will go between the car's wheels and right under the bike behind the car. It's much better to go a little bit more to the side of the lane, like this, to where the car wheel tracks are. This way you can see much further down the road, and you won't get any surprises from the car in front of you. And the last distinct mistake, which you can see quite a lot from beginner riders, is this awkward turning process, which often called 50 pence. This happens as a combination of two reasons. First, a rider who does this often doesn't know how exactly countersteering works. He tries to steer through the turn, but bike keeps going straight. And yes, I've got a detailed video on countersteering as well. In case you missed it, check it out. Second reason for 50 pensing is wrong vision technique. Usually, as a rule of thumb, when you are going through the turn, you should look as far into the turn as you can. And usually, when you do that, you lean into the turn once, then go through the turn and start to unlean only when you see the exit. But if you don't look into the turn far enough, you just can end up going from one point of the turn to another, constantly readjusting your lean angle. This can also cause this 50 pensing behavior. Okay, enough with mistakes for today. Tell me in the comments which mistakes you usually spot with the beginner riders. And maybe you still remember some mistakes you did when you were a beginner. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Adios!